Hi, I'm Tim and thanks for watching this video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at this, which is the GL.iNet Comet 5G, and it has not only Ethernet but also Wi-Fi and also 5G of course built into it. Now just before we get started, just as a disclaimer, this was sent to me free of charge by GL.iNet, and all views and opinions in this video are all of my own and I've not been told what to say in this video at all. So without further delay, let's take a look and see what you get in the box, and then we'll fire it up and see what the device can do. So let's get to it. So in the box you get the Connect with GL.iNet card with a QR code on it. You get the Let's Get Started Quick Start Guide there. You also get the power adapter. Now this is a USB-C power adapter, and you can see the power brick is quite small, so it's well designed so that it fits into most sockets. And you also get the adapters with it. So here I've got the European adapter there, the 2-pin one, and also the UK one, 3-pin, and that just locks into place like so, and there you have the small compact power adapter. Now this is rated at 5 volts 3 amps. You also get the HDMI cable, that's high speed HDMI, and you also get a USB-C to A cable, so that's obviously for connecting to your PC or device that you want to remotely connect to. And you also get a Cat6 flat Ethernet cable as well in the box, so this is standard with all of their KVMs actually. Now the KVM itself is, as I've said, the GL.iNet 5G, and the model number is GLRM10RC, and its input is rated, as I've said, is 5 volts 3 amps, and the MAC address, serial number and so on, device ID are all on the bottom of the device there. So looking at the front, we have a touchscreen LCD display. We also have on the top the logo. At the back we have the reset, so that's a reset button, and we also have the power adapter, as I said, is USB-C, the USB-C connector there for the keyboard and for the mouse. We have HDMI in and HDMI out, so it has HDMI pass-through, so you obviously connect the in from the back of your PC, for example, into that, and then the HDMI out to your usual connected monitor that you have on your PC. Then we also have a RJ45 Ethernet connection. Now just to note that this is not PoE, so it's just for Ethernet data only and not power. So at the left hand side we have an antenna which can rotate upwards and also backwards, like you can see. So if you wanted to, for example, shelf mount this with the antenna sticking up, you could do, or probably wall mount it with a bracket. So you could probably print a 3D bracket for this and hold it in place like that, hence why the antennas rotate as what you want. But I would prefer to obviously sit it on a desk, and it has rubber pads on the bottom there. So what we'll do now is get this powered on. So we'll connect it to the Ethernet, which I've got handy here, and then power it on with the power adapter. And you'll see it's got the GL.iNet logo there, which flashes on the screen, and then in a moment it will say booting. So there we go, it's booting up with the blue and white bar going across the screen with the GL.iNet logo above it. And that just takes just a few seconds, and there we go. It's picked up an IP address. So it's picked up the IP address from my router or router, whichever you like to refer to them as. And as I said, this is a touch screen. So what you can actually do is scroll from the top downwards, and then it gives you the option to reboot and also lock the touch screen as well. And if we go from down upwards and again, then it gives you the model number and all the information about the device itself. So if we go back to the home screen with the IP address, you can also swipe from right to left, and there it gives you the settings. So you can alter the screen display by touching that, so it gives you the brightness option there, which you can adjust, and also the screen lock option. So if we click the back arrow there, you can also go into Wi-Fi and you can set up the Wi-Fi. So the Wi-Fi is actually activated, and you can actually have it as a Wi-Fi mode, or you can actually have it as an AP mode. So this will actually act as a wireless access point in the AP mode. So you could actually connect your devices to this and use this to connect to your network via the cable, and then it will provide in an access point mode. So it's basically a built-in access point. Now, I'm not quite sure how many devices you'll be able to connect simultaneously for this to the access point mode, but that should be available on the website in the detailed information. So if we go back from Wi-Fi, then you've got the other option for cellular. Now the cellular you'll see is disabled at the moment. So if we go back, and then you could also click on the other option, which is cloud services. And then that's enabled at the moment, but I haven't actually linked it to the cloud service account. And also if you swipe from left to right, you'll see we've got a real-time video preview. So what it will actually do is preview the video that's being connected from the device. So for example, the PC screen would actually be put on the screen here as real-time video. Now I'm not sure how useful it would be because of the screen size, but it's some nice feature what they've added there. So what we'll do now is put the antennas up, and at the right hand side of the device, which you'll hopefully be able to see there, there's also a USB 2 connection. So you could actually put a USB flash drive in there with data and images on. Say if you wanted to remotely set up a PC via a, for example, ISO image, then you could load the ISO image onto the USB flash drive, put it in the USB 2 port, and then set up the remote computer from there. But also there's of course the SIM card slot. Now it just so happens I was waiting for my SIM card to arrive, hence the delay with this video, but I have the SIM card here. Now to insert the SIM card, you have the gold contacts facing upwards. So they're facing upwards on the device, and the notch on the SIM card should be to the right hand side. So it should be gold contacts up with the notch to the right hand side, and that slots in there in the SIM card slot, and then just pushes in and locks in place with your finger or your nail. So you just have to push it in and it locks in, and then to release it you press it again and it will spring the SIM card partly out, where you can then slide it out with your fingers. So that's the SIM card in place. So now what we'll do, now we've powered this on, is we'll get it fired up in a web browser, and I'll go through the options in the web browser, and then we'll get the SIM card activated and also Wi-Fi. Now just one other thing, the screen automatically dims itself, so it does actually have a screensaver built in, and I believe that's about 60 seconds which it's set at. So the screen will automatically clear, which is useful as a screensaver and power option. So that's good to see as well. So let's get to it now. Hop onto the computer and I'll show you the web interface for this. So here we are at the web page, and to get access to your KVM, all you need to type in the address bar at the top is http or https GL.KVM or GL.KVM.local. Or of course you can type in the usual IP address, which is shown on the LCD display on the front of the device. So as with standard with all the GL.iNet KVMs, you get the usual login page. Now when you first log in, it will ask you to create a password, but as I've already done that, I'm just going to log in with my admin password, and then it will take you to the screen where you would control your PC. Now at the moment it's saying no HDMI signal detected. That's because I don't have it plugged into a PC, but if you want to see it connected up to a PC, then see my previous video where I did one, and I'll put a link to that at the end of this video, so you can click on the video card at the end of this video if you want to go and check out the GLiNet Comet KVM, and that's the PoE version, by the way, not the same model but a different model, and that's the PoE version. So if we go into settings at the top left side, you'll see this is pretty standard with all the GL.iNet KVMs. So you've got the video mode, smart or normal. You've got transfer mode, so WebRTC, WebRTC, FEC and direct connection. Then we've got the orientation of the video display, so you can rotate that if you want. So if you're running, for example, on a vertical screen layout, then you could change the orientation. Then we've got the ED-ID, so that's the resolution, and the device type. So at the moment it's set by default, which it picked up automatically, is the 1920 by 1080 ASUS, and that's 60 Hz. The view is adapted, so you can change that to best picture quality, original pixel, but we just leave that all as default, which they are at the moment. So view is set to adaptive. Then we've got the remote device settings. So we've got speaker. If you want to enable audio pass-through, you can. Microphone, you can enable that. Keyboard, bad link mode. We've got show virtual keyboard. So if we enable that, you'll see there's a pop on screen with a virtual keyboard, which is quite useful. Then we've got the swap commands and control for Mac OS. So that's something related to Mac OS. As I'm on a PC, I can't show you that option at the moment. So we've got mouse control, show local cursor, and we've also got mouse jiggle as well, scroll rate, scroll direction, mouse mode. And then for the system, we've got device identity, and that's set to GL KVM, which is default, but you can set it to 1080p ASUS and Logitech, or 2K ViewSonic and Corsair Gaming RGB, or 4K GL KVM with a Dell keyboard. So it's nice to see that they've put some profiles in there as well as the default ones. So in language, we can select the language as English or Chinese. Color mode is light, so let's change that to dark. That's better. Time zone, and then you can reset the KVM as well. Then we've got the network options. Now here is the important bit for this model. So the host name, you can actually change that. So in the address bar, instead of typing glkvm.local or glkvm, you can give it a different name if you want to do so. Now I would recommend, once you've done that, so you click on it, change the host name, apply it, and then I would recommend rebooting your KVM just so that it picks up the new name a bit quicker, rather than it waiting for the DHCP client information to time out and then refresh itself, which could take a while. So for the network options, we've got Ethernet. So this is to access it via the Ethernet connection, via the RJ45 socket on the back of the device, of course. So you can set a static IP address if you want to. Then we've got the Wi-Fi information. So here you'll see it's connected to Wi-Fi. So what I did was put it in station mode, so it's acting as just a Wi-Fi client. But as I've said earlier in the video, you can actually set it to AP mode, where the device builds its own Wi-Fi network, eliminating the need for an external router or router. So in station mode, it will ask you to set the Wi-Fi network when you first go into it. Now I've already done that, so if you want to change it, you can just go to switch Wi-Fi. Then what you could do is delete the Wi-Fi network or just connect to another one. For example, this one here, and click connect, and then it will ask you for the Wi-Fi password. So there we go. It's reconnected to the Wi-Fi and Ethernet. So this is connected via Ethernet at the moment. Now the way it works is it will first connect to Ethernet, and then if it automatically cannot detect any Ethernet or your Ethernet goes down, it will automatically switch over to Wi-Fi connection. And then if your Wi-Fi goes down, it will change and switch over automatically to cellular connection. So at the moment, what I've done is inserted the SIM card, which I showed you earlier on in the video. So at the moment, it's saying disconnected here. So if we click on the cellular option, it will bring up the cellular window, and all we need to do is click connect. Now, the reason I'm clicking connect is because previously I told it to disconnect and not connect automatically. So that's why you have to click connect. But under normal circumstances, once you put the SIM card in, it will automatically connect itself to your cellular mobile network. So you don't have to click connect and disconnect, just to make you aware of that. It's only because I clicked disconnect and disabled it previously for testing. So you'll see that we've now automatically got the cellular connection option there. So network operator is 3, and it's got an IP address from the network, and we've got a fair signal. Now in my area, it's not because of the device itself, it's because mobile signals in my area are not too good anyway. So that's why we've got a fair signal level and not sort of good with green colour against it. So that's not a fault with the device, just to make you aware of that. So what will happen, you see, is now in the network section, we've got Ethernet. So what it will do, as I've said, it will first connect to Ethernet. Then if it cannot connect to Ethernet, it will switch over to Wi-Fi connection. And then if it cannot connect to that, it will then switch over to a cellular connection. So there is the 3 network options. Now, currently there's no option to switch the network order around, but I have heard on the grapevine that they're probably changing the firmware in the device so that you can change the order for the connection of the device. So for example, it would connect to cellular, Wi-Fi and then Ethernet, rather than Ethernet, Wi-Fi and cellular. So that was what I've heard, not officially of course, but I've heard that there might be updating the firmware at some point to reorder the connection preferences. So you'll see here at the bottom we've got the status, so it's Web RTC H264 and the resolution is 1920 by 1080, and then we've got P2P as the connection protocol, and then 4G. So the cellular connection is on a 4G. Then at the far right hand side we've got the status, so we've got keyboard, so the stream is inactive, and then we've got keyboard rather, then we've got mouse, audio and microphone. So then going into the settings, so we've closed settings, go into toolbox, you'll see we've got clipboard and the usual shortcut keys as well, which are common with all the GL.iNet KVMs. So then we move on, we've got accessories again. That's no external device, so that's if you want to plug, for example, a flash drive into the USB 2 port on the right side of the device, then you can do to load ISO images and software and applications onto and so on. However, it does feature a 64GB internal eMMC storage as well. So that's built into the device. So you've got 64GB of storage built into the device, which you could load the software onto if you wanted to. So you don't have to use an external flash drive. So then we've got virtual media where you can mount, for example, a drive. So it would mount it as a virtual drive. So what you would do is select mount to remote and then file sharing, for example, or click the upload to load the file into the virtual media. So it give it up as a virtual drive in the GL.iNet KVM software here. Then we've got App Center, and we've got Tailscale and also Zero Tier. So if you want to use Tailscale or Zero Tier to connect to your network remotely, then you can use those protocols if you want to. You don't have to use the GL.iNet cloud option, which of course you can do if you want to. So the GL.iNet cloud option is here with cloud services. So what you do is bind it to the KVM cloud or bind it with a code to bind it to the KVM cloud, so you can access it via that instead of Tailscale or Zero Tier. So then we've got the collapse toolbar option. So it just collapses the toolbar, and then to bring it back, you click the arrow, and then we've got the full screen option, and then the firmware update option, so it's upgraded already. Then we've got the security option, so you can change the admin password, and there's also two-factor authentication option now in these devices as well, which is good to see again. Then we've got the reboot icon and then the logout icon. Now just one thing, going back into settings, for the cellular option, it does actually support 5G RedCap connectivity, so it's independent out-of-band access even when the LAN, for example, connection is misconfigured. So it has got multi-network failover, as I've said, so it will go from Ethernet to Wi-Fi to cellular in that order. Now for the 4K video pass-through, it will support 4K at up to 30 frames per second, and that's the same with the video input as well. So the input and output for the HDMI ports on the back of the device are up to 4K at 30 frames per second. So that will do it for this video. Hope you found it useful. Now I will put links and further information in the video description. So if you want to purchase one of these, then the links are in the video description and also the links for further information. But to help you and save you going to the website for more information, what I will do is just at the end of this video coming up next, I'll put the specifications for the different models of the GL.iNet KVMs on screen so you can compare the models and see which ones works best for you. And as I've also said, there'll be a pop-up at the end of this video where you can view my video on the GLiNet Comet PoE as well. So thanks for watching this video. Hope you liked it. Hope you found it useful. And take care, and I'll be back soon with more videos. Bye for now.